This fabled region right in the center of Turkey. Every civilization, from the Persians to the Romans and beyond, has laid claim to this area. It's one of these places in the ancient world where the history is layered so thick, you hardly even know where to begin.
In the sun-scorched plains of southeastern Turkey lies a mound that once looked like nothing more than an overgrown hill. Locals called it Göbekli Tepe, meaning Potbelly Hill. But what archaeologists would uncover beneath that soil would shake the foundations of human history. This wasn't just another ancient ruin. It was a site so old, so precise in its construction, that it defied every rule of what we thought early humans were capable of.
Look at that. This is so cool.
And just when researchers thought they had unearthed everything, they found something sealed beneath the stones, a 12,000-year-old vault that had never been opened. What they discovered inside would challenge everything we know about civilization itself. The discovery of Göbekli Tepe. It all began in the early 1990s when a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt arrived to study what he believed was a forgotten medieval burial site. The hill seemed ordinary, a pile of rocks, weeds, and dust. Previous teams from the University of Chicago had written it off as unremarkable decades earlier. But Schmidt noticed something they had missed. Some stones weren't natural. They were carved, deliberately shaped, smooth, and impossibly massive.
German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt visited the site and began digging. They realized what was really at the site.
What he discovered was mind-blowing. After discovering the first T-shaped pillar buried at the site, he soon found more of these massive structures.
As excavation began, his team uncovered towering T-shaped pillars arranged in circular formations, each one carved with animals. Foxes, vultures, snakes, and boars, symbols of both power and mystery. These weren't crude carvings made by primitive hunters. They were artistic, intentional, and stunningly detailed. Radiocarbon dating soon placed the site at 9,600 BCE, meaning it was over 11,000 years old. That's 6,000 years older than Stonehenge and 7,000 years before the Great Pyramid of Giza. Göbekli Tepe instantly rewrote the story of humanity. Archaeologists had always believed that religion in complex societies came after agriculture. But here was a temple built long before farming even existed. This meant early humans may have gathered to worship first and settled down later. Civilization might not have birthed religion, religion might have birthed civilization. For years, researchers thought Göbekli Tepe's mysteries ended at the surface. But new scanning technologies told a different story. Beneath the known temple rings lay another structure, something deliberately buried. When the team began clearing layers of limestone slabs, they found rows of flat stone tablets, carefully arranged edge to edge. At first glance, they looked like decorative panels. But under the dust and wear, patterns emerged, symbols and markings that didn't match any known script. Many of the carvings had been deliberately defaced, eyes chipped away, symbols cut in half. It wasn't erosion, it was vandalism, and ancient vandalism at that. When the team tested the tablets, they discovered something even stranger. The stones had been heated, not once but twice. The first firing hardened them. The second seemed to seal them, as if the builders were trying to trap something inside. Microscopic analysis revealed faint markings beneath the surface layer. Hidden inscriptions, invisible to the naked eye. Linguists compared them to Proto-Sumerian and found recurring signs that translated loosely to bind, contain, and watch. One tablet in particular drew attention. It showed a lone human figure standing between two curved lines that resembled rivers. Above the figure was a word, negel, roughly interpreted as the sleepers below. Some dismissed it as coincidence. Others saw it as a warning. All right, viewers, before we move forward, let me tell you about something straight out of a dream, or maybe a nightmare, HALLUCIGENIA. This tiny creature, only about 1 to 3 centimeters long, lived nearly 508 million years ago during the Cambrian period, and was discovered in the Burgess Shale fossil deposits of Canada. Its scientific name, HALLUCIGENIA sparsa says it all. When scientists first saw it, they thought it looked so bizarre that it had to be a hallucination. In fact, early researchers reconstructed it upside down, mistaking its razor-like spines for legs and its legs with claws for spikes. Picture this: a worm-like body, 7 pairs of sharp legs, and rows of long spines piercing out of its back, like armor from another world. For millions of years, it crawled through the ocean floor, fragile, strange, and yet a crucial piece of evolution's puzzle. Because despite its alien look, HALLUCIGENIA helps us understand the early ancestors of insects, spiders, and crustaceans, the building blocks of life that still thrive today. It's not just a fossil, it's a hallucination turned into history. And now that we've stepped out of the Cambrian dreamscape, let's get back to where we left off. Mapping the tablets revealed something eerie. Their placement wasn't random. The lines and alignments formed a geometric pattern that pointed to a precise location beneath the temple's central ring. Using ground-penetrating radar, scientists detected a hollow space deep underground, symmetrical, smooth, and clearly man-made. Excavation began cautiously. As they dug deeper, they found a spiral staircase carved directly into the bedrock, descending into darkness. The air that drifted out was cold and metallic, carrying the scent of minerals and something ancient, something that hadn't breathed in millennia. Halfway down, the path was blocked by a wall of mud brick, sealed so tightly it seemed like a message: "Do not open." Chemical sensors later revealed traces of mercury leaking from between the bricks. In ancient cultures, mercury was sometimes used as a barrier in tombs, symbolically meant to ward off spirits, or more practically, to deter intruders. The implication was chilling. Whoever built this wall wanted whatever lay below to stay buried. After days of delicate work, the final brick was removed. A rush of freezing air burst upward, fogging the team's cameras. For a few moments, no one moved. They were breathing air that hadn't touched human lungs in over 12,000 years. The chamber was enormous, carved perfectly from solid rock. The walls were smooth, curving in perfect circles, and covered in carvings, spirals, suns, and handprints, all facing downward. 2 massive T-shaped pillars stood at the center, larger even than those above ground. When digitally mapped, their markings matched the constellations as they appeared around 10,950 BCE, the very moment the Earth plunged into the sudden mini-ice age known as the Younger Dryas. To some scientists, the chamber was a memorial, a record of a catastrophe that nearly ended humanity. To others, it felt like something far more ominous. The carvings weren't celebrating. They looked like warnings. When instruments were installed to measure vibration and temperature, things took a bizarre turn. Sensors began to pick up rhythmic pulses, short, steady vibrations coming from directly beneath the central pillars. The readings didn't match footsteps, wind, or seismic activity. The pattern was too regular, like a heartbeat. The air temperature fluctuated wildly. Lights flickered. Metallic moisture began to condense on the walls, shimmering under flashlight beams. Several members of the team described the sensation of the stone itself, breathing. One researcher later admitted that the atmosphere felt alive. As the team debated whether to continue, the readings grew stronger. The pulses quickened. When they removed the central floor slabs, the sound abruptly stopped. Beneath the stone, they found it, a massive square vault, metallic and perfectly sealed, fused to the bedrock like it had been melted into place. The vault was unlike anything archaeologists had ever seen. Its surface was smooth and metallic, etched with spiraling grooves that converged at the center, where 2 carved hands surrounded falling human figures. The same symbols from the defaced tablets reappeared here, but fully intact. Drills and chisels were useless. The metal refused to break. When they finally used a thermal lance, the seal cracked open with a deep groan that echoed through the chamber. Then came a gust of air so cold it burned, followed by a stench like burnt iron and decay. Inside, the light revealed something unimaginable. The vault's walls were lined with human silhouettes, not carved but fused into the metal. Their forms were twisted, stretched, and burned into the surface, as if they had been caught in an explosion of heat. Under ultraviolet light, the outlines glowed faintly. These weren't sculptures. They were remains. At the center stood a raised stone platform covered in black resin. Ropes once tied across it had burned away, leaving charred impressions. Whatever had been secured there had been intentionally destroyed. Samples from the resin showed it was made of plant oils and metal oxides, a mixture that ignites when exposed to air. The vault had been sealed not to preserve something, but to suffocate it. When the team opened it, the ancient compounds reactivated, releasing freezing vapor that swept across the chamber floor. The sudden cold wasn't supernatural, it was chemistry, a 12,000-year-old reaction repeating itself. Still, it left everyone shaken. As the footage circulated privately among researchers, one conclusion became impossible to ignore. Göbekli Tepe wasn't just a temple, it was a warning. Every detail, from the defaced symbols to the mercury barrier in the buried vault, suggested a people terrified of something powerful enough to change their world. Some theories suggest the builders were survivors of the Younger Dryas disaster, desperate to record or contain whatever force caused the devastation. Others believe the vault was a burial site for something not human, tied to myths of the first people, or men of stone, mentioned in ancient Mesopotamian legends. A few radical theories even suggest it held remnants of a lost pre-Ice Age civilization, wiped out and intentionally sealed away to prevent its return. Mainstream archaeologists reject these ideas, pointing out the lack of verified evidence. But the question remains, why would a civilization of hunter-gatherers carve and bury such a structure, then erase it from history? If any part of this discovery proves authentic, it would rewrite the human timeline entirely. It would mean that people living 12,000 years ago possessed advanced engineering, symbolic communication, and perhaps even early forms of metallurgy. It would also suggest that civilization didn't start from scratch after the Ice Age. It restarted. Göbekli Tepe may not be the first temple, but the last monument of an older world. The carvings, the symbols, and now this alleged vault all seem to hint at an inherited memory, a warning from those who lived through a global catastrophe and tried to seal away its cause. Some historians have drawn parallels between Göbekli Tepe's imagery and flood myths from cultures worldwide, stories of gods, destruction, and rebirth. Perhaps these myths weren't fiction at all, but fractured memories of a real disaster humanity barely survived. In the end, the mystery of Göbekli Tepe's vault is not about what was found, but what it means. The site challenges everything we think we know about our origins. Who built it, what they feared, and why they buried it so deliberately. Whether the vault's contents were ritual, myth, or technology, the message seems clear. Our ancestors wanted this story to stay hidden. Maybe they weren't just building a temple. Maybe they were building a tomb for something the world wasn't ready for. As the sun sets over Potbelly Hill, the pillars cast long shadows that stretch across 12 millennia of human history. And now that the vault has been opened, we're left with one question that echoes across time. Did we just uncover the origins of civilization, or the reason it nearly ended? If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most mind-bending discoveries, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next ancient mystery we uncover. What's buried beneath Göbekli Tepe might just be the first chapter of a story humanity was never meant to remember. But we're going to tell it anyway. Stay curious, stay questioning, and I'll see you in the next one.